I mean, that's routine, except it's typically not routine.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is April 29th, 2021. It is 6:30 p.m. Call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. The prayer Tuesday night will be by Vice Mayor No, and I will have the Pledge of Allegiance. You should all have received a copy of the minutes from the April 6th, 2021 public hearing and April 6th, 2021 regular meeting to review. First up, we will kick off to the fire department for the pinning ceremony. Chief Beasley.
Good evening. We have two promotions to make tonight. Again, tonight's a significant night for these families and these individuals. Promotion is a significant example of how they've spent their time, both personally and professionally, to prepare themselves for these ranks. First off, I'd like to promote to the rank of Life Safety Officer, Kevin Douglas. Kevin's a 15-year veteran of the fire department. He was promoted from the rank of engineer to life safety officer. And his son will be doing the badge pinning. Second, we would also like to promote to the rank of engineer Tyler Spain. Tyler is a 7-year veteran of the fire department, promoted from the rank of firefighter to engineer, and his wife will be doing the pinning.
Congratulations again to both men. Very proud day for y'all. We will have departmental reports, and then old business, first reading ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 32 parcel 4 tax map 29 parcels 40 and 41, consisting of approximately 226.35 acres located adjacent to the intersection of Blair Road and Waldron Road, from an R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR, planned density residential zoning district, on March 2nd, 2021. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen sent this back to Planning Commission, which was deferred at the March 30th and April 27th, 2021 meetings. The Planning Commission is still debating this, and we are still waiting for a recommendation for them for the next meeting. So this item will probably be deferred for another month, waiting their recommendation. Any questions on it?
Has anything changed so far in this ordinance?
In this ordinance? No. With the plan, per the requests from commissioners on the Planning Commission, there was some rotating of the concept plan commercial areas so that the back of the commercial area at the corner of Blair and Waldron would be facing the homes at Walnut Ridge versus the businesses front facing that way.
It was some talk about the road improvements. The developers is not going to do as much road improvement.
Correct. That has been discussed, just as this board has been discussing widening Waldron Road. Any other questions? Moving on to second reading, ordinance 2021-05, an ordinance of the City of Laverne to amend Title IV, Chapter 3 of the Laverne Municipal Code to establish an updated occupational safety and health program plan, devise rules and regulations, and provide for a safety director and the implementation of such a plan. Any questions? Moving on to second reading ordinance 2021-06, an ordinance to amend Title I, Chapter 1 of the Laverne Municipal Code by adding a new section 1-108 regarding vacancies on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We discussed this last month. Any questions?
I just, like I mentioned last month, this will only go into effect if we have a election and one of the board members is out, but if someone passes away or resigns, this don't affect it. It's just one single item that this is going to affect. Everything else is going to be handled the same way.
No, sir. As we discussed last month, it affects two portions. If there is a vacancy due to an election, then whoever is the third place finisher in that election would automatically fill that vacancy. If there is a vacancy that is caused by a resignation, a death, for whatever reason that's outside of an election, then it states that as far as an official way that we're going to do this, which is letters of intent and resumes from interested parties, and then the board decides. That is currently not an adopted process in our municipal code.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It addresses really just one deal, but
Two types of vacancies. Okay, moving on to number 7, second reading ordinance 2021-07, an ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 3, Section 8-301 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the membership of the Beer Board. This was discussed last month. Is there any questions? Seeing none. Number 8, second reading ordinance 2021-08, an ordinance to amend Title 14, Chapter 1, Section 14-101 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the membership of the Planning Commission. Again, we discussed this last month. Any questions?
All of these are basically the same thing. They can't be categorized together. They have to be broken up individually.
Yes, sir. It's
Okay.
the individual sections of the municipal code that we're updating.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 9, second reading, ordinance 2021-09, an ordinance to amend Title 14, Chapter 5, Section 14-501 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the membership of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any questions? Number 10, second reading, ordinance 2021-10, an ordinance to amend Title 20, Chapter 2, Section 20-208 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the Parks and Recreation user fees. Is there any questions about this? We discussed it last month. Seeing none, moving on to number 11, second reading, ordinance 2021-11, an ordinance to amend Title 9, Chapter 9, Section 9-905 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding mobile food service permits. Any questions about this? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And first item is approved city bids and purchases. First up, we've got the bid for the 24-inch water main from the Stones River roundabout to the water treatment plant. Jamie, would you like to take us through it?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Aldermen. On April 20th, 2021 at 2 p.m., we opened bids for the 24-inch water main from the Stones River Road roundabout to the water treatment plant project, where 7 bids were submitted, publicly opened, and read aloud. The parent low bidder was CDCI of Franklin, Kentucky, with a total bid amount of $5,622,390. CDCI is a Tennessee licensed contractor with the appropriate classifications and monetary limit for this project. We recommend award of the 24-inch water main project to the low bidder, CDCI. Do y'all have any questions?
Is there anything in these contracts, Bruce, when it comes time for this to be done, that, Of course, it's kind of dumb, I guess, to even think about it because you can't control Mother Nature and stuff. But is there a timeline once this thing starts to the time it finishes? And if it doesn't get done in that time amount, they can be held, not liable, but held down to where we get money back or something?
Yes, sir. There are liquidating damages clauses in that. I'm sure Jamie can explain that in much more detail than I could.
Yes, sir, we do. We have a contract time limit from the day that we give them a notice to proceed date, which we establish usually during the pre-construction conference with them. It's a date everybody agrees on, all parties. And from that time, they have so many days. I think it came out to about 15 months on this project. And then they have about another month to get to final completion after that. And there are liquidated damages associated with both of those deadlines. I believe it's $1,000 a day if they go past their substantial completion date without a warranted reason that we would handle through the change order process. So if they're just not performing and do not finish on time, the liquidated damages clause can be enforced. They also are required to have a performance and payment bond to do the work. And so in the event of failure to complete the project, we can call the bond company and then they will find a contractor to complete the work and finish out the project.
All right, thank you.
No.
Is there a
Additionally,
stipulation in it for, due to bad weather?
We do have a weather conditions clause in the contract where that they get so many weather days per month. It's kind of based out on typical rainfall and adverse weather already in there. And then if there are more days in that month, more working days in that month, then they can ask for that because it's a little out of their control. But
Is that something they come to you about, Bruce or Kyle?
It goes through the engineering and at some point it would come through this board. You know, if an adjustment had to be made, it'd be in a change order.
and while I've discussed with our city administrators some concerns, I've been reassured that between your firm as well as our utility engineer, that there will be quite a bit of oversight on this to make sure that we are staying with our timelines.
yes, sir. So, yes.
Mr. Mayor, just a note, comment, there is a big difference between the lowest bid and the highest bid.
Absolutely.
I mean, the highest bid is 8,406,000. There's a big difference between the lowest and the highest.
Absolutely. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we budgeted $4.5 million for this.
I
Is
believe
that
so.
correct?
I think the original budget was around that, and then there were some additional components that were added that were not included in that budget that seemed, it was the time to do it. There's about 2,000 feet of 8-inch pipe with several service line reconnections that's in the vicinity of the project where I think there's been many line breaks and there's kind of low cover on the existing pipe there that we just felt that if you're already tearing up the road and putting in the 24, this was the time to go ahead and replace that and get those to the proper depth and get those services reconnected for better customer service.
And then, so that the public is aware, this is going to start at the roundabout and go to the treatment plant. Is that correct?
It will start just north of the roundabout, and there are some phased traffic control measures in there where there'll be detour signs up, rerouting in segments, and they have to completely finish in that segment before they can move on to the next part to try to minimize the amount of impact to the residents.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
It's going to be interesting times there down Stonesville Road on a morning and evening. It's going to be messy, and people are going to have some patience to get this work done.
That's why I was just wondering, because when that starts, it's going to be great for the city. But it's going to be, let's face it, progress is always a pain in the neck, but it'll be well worth it once it's done.
Have we used this company before? I don't recognize it.
No, sir, I had not worked with them either. I did call several of their references. There were 8 highly favorable One was mediocre and one didn't comment.
Thank you.
This is a company that, if I'm not mistaken, has been around since 1993, over 400 employees.
That's correct. Yeah, and they've been licensed in Tennessee since 1999.
I may have missed this prior, but what's the estimated timeline for it to be completed?
Once we have a pre-construction conference with them and set a notice to proceed date, from that date, they have 15 months to finish it. So I think by the time it's all said and done, we're probably looking late fall of 2022 complete.
Okay. And just for some odd reason, if they don't maintain their performance and the timeline, and a new bid comes in, or the next, however that works, I'm not sure, forgive me, will the cost go up, or will it remain the same from that bid, or how does that work?
So if there's if they default on their contract, so to say, that's what the bond is for.
Okay.
And so we would call the bond, and they would have someone come out and complete and finish the work.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 2, it's going to be the state contract purchase. And Ms. Felicia, you want to walk us through that?
Yes, sir. This is for the TACN for the police department. It is under a state contract. It is something they need to help with investigations.
Any questions?
Is that in the was that in the budget?
God bless you.
Yes, they have the budget, they have the money for this.
Yes, in the packet, under the agenda item summary sheet for this item, it was originally requested and to be budgeted for the 21-22, but we're going ahead and this purchase during the current fiscal year.
Right, but this
As
will not
the police
require a
department.
budget amendment for it. They have the money,
Right,
for
they
it.
have enough money in their budget. Any other questions?
And the
Okay,
next item is the automated license plate reader recognition. This particular one is on Sourcewell, but it gives them 4 cameras versus 2, so it's a much better for the police department.
and the licensing and sharing of data is a big part
Yes,
of
they
that
can
as well.
share the data at no extra cost. They have unlimited usage.
Any questions? Okay, next item.
Okay, the next one we've got is the vehicle for the fire department, and I know they're happy for that. We've been working on this for a while. This was in the next year's budget, but they have the funds for us to pull it forward. And this is the time of year where, when we're getting towards the end, if something can come in by June and they have the money, we don't have to do a budget amendment, but we can pull it forward and go ahead and pay for it.
Correct, as we've done for several years now.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure all of you understood that the procedure of how we do that. Because believe you me, I ask questions, so.
Good. Any questions about this?
I don't have a question. I know it's off subject. I thought about this the other night. Whatever happened to the old vehicle that Chief Clark used to talk about?
The rust bucket?
It was some kind of rust bucket or something. I'm just,
Is that the heavy rescue vehicle you were talking about?
Are we
yeah,
talking about the Chicago vehicle?
yeah, that's it. Whatever happened to that thing?
I don't want to know. I honestly don't want to
You
know.
still got it, Chief?
Yes, sir, we do.
You putting flyers in it like this can or what?
No, sir. We use that for reserve vehicle. We were experiencing extensive amount of repairs.
Yeah, we've been listening to the extensive part.
We
for a long time.
inherited that, so it's used as a reserve vehicle. We took the secondary vehicle and placed it in the front line, and it's saved considerable amount of money in the last 6 months not repairing that vehicle. So
It's
it's
best.
there for us, and it can still roll, but
Okay, I was just curious because when I first got into office, I kept hearing about this thing and I was wondering whatever happened to it.
me as well.
You can proceed, Felicia.
Okay, the next one is for an Explorer for the utility engineer. That was a new position. He needs a vehicle, so that's under state contract. The next one is a sewer F-250, which is for the sewer department. That is another one of those items that is being pulled forward from the former budget, because, for next year's budget, because they have the money. Proceed. My next item is the mower for the Parks and Recreation Department. This is on a Sourcewell contract for the Hustler 70, I think it's a 70-inch mower. It's a little bit bigger than the ones Garland got, but it's on Sourcewell. It was in 2021. They have the funds for us to pull that one forward. Any questions? And I have a copy lease through GSA for the utility department, water utility department. The utility engineer will use it mostly, but anybody upstairs will be, over at Public Works will be able to use that one. Any questions?
Oh, man.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, and then we've got the state contract purchase tablets and printers for the police department. Chief, you want to take that one?
This is, when I took over, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Alderman, when I took over interim chief for the police department, it was brought to my attention that the detectives, narcotics or the general detectives, didn't have a way to execute search warrants while they're on the scene of a crime. They would have to at least have 2 detectives working, and one would have to go, the case detective would have to go back to the office here and get on the telephone with the detective that's on the scene and type out a search warrant and then print it out and then go to the commissioner's office and get it signed. But here recently, now that FaceTime and those things are out, they're able to FaceTime the judge. But this will give the detective the opportunity to execute the search warrant and type it out and everything and print it out on scene. That way they could provide a copy to the judge while they're on the scene and get it back and print it out and give a copy to the suspect on the scene versus going through the old process. Any questions?
And these tablets, they're Microsoft Surface Pros, is that right?
Yes. Glenn Green, he took care of that for us.
Yes, and a small printer that's made to be mobile in a vehicle. They would have, most of them would have the printer as well. It's on the Sourcewell or whatever, one of our contracts that we're able to purchase from the CDW.
It's a good tablet to be able to use mobile, so.
Very, very good, yes. And we would get them rugged cases and all that to protect them. But yeah, it's a good tablet.
Wonderful.
So you're FaceTiming a judge at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Absolutely.
How would you think about that?
I don't have to do it.
I can say I've spoken with Judge Tidwell, who has done them several times when he was a Rutherford County judge. And whenever it's 2 in the morning and you're getting a phone call, he said he much prefers that versus someone knocking on his door.
Correct. Because they will be required to go to that judge's house and knock on their door and wake up everybody.
So we just
to get this
FaceTime.
done. So now they just FaceTime, they'll get it done. Technology.
Yes. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Moving on to B, approve change order number 1, Industrial Boulevard, New Sanford Road traffic signal and an intersection improvement project. Let's go over here. And so as everyone knows, we've been working on getting a signal over on Industrial. And so this is just a change order. It will increase the total price by $31,501.63. Most of the plans for this project was put together before the winter months that we had, which this was a little bit worse winter than we normally have. So the combination of the weather and the truck traffic has degraded the road such that it made sense for staff to have it repaired at the same time as the intersection is being paved. Is there any questions?
No questions, but I know those folks that work up there at them warehouses will be absolutely tickled to death to get that thing.
I've had at least one calling me regularly about this. Any questions? Okay, moving on to C, approve a Parks and Recreation use agreement with Julianne Holbrook for a Zumba program. You all have a copy of the user agreement. It would let her use the multipurpose building for the sole purpose of conducting Zumba Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 7:30. And the agreement's based on an hourly fee of $15. Is there any questions? Seeing none. Let's see here. We've got approve a Parks and Recreation use agreement with Jacqueline Dixon for a jazzercise program. This is very similar to the other one. This would be Monday and Wednesdays from 5:45 to 6:45, and again, that same hourly fee of $15. Any questions? Moving on to E, approve a professional service agreement with Navy Retail LLC for the new economic development website for the city of Laverne. Should all have a copy of the services agreement in your packet to read through. The cost of this project is $10,000 as a one-time fee, and then each year a $2,000 maintenance. This is not just for a website. Yes, there's a website component, but there's also all the data analytics tied with it, and targeting, keeping it up to date with available properties. There's going to be some, of course, HTML, PHP configuration. I know it's been discussed with the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Alderman Coach, is there anything you'd like to add?
We went through it, and the board sort of recommended this to move forward with this. It's good for the city, and it's going to start advertising the city and bring in more retail to the city, which will in turn bring in more dollars.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Moving on to F. That's going to be approved change order number 1 for the Ridgemont Sewer Pump Station Replacement Project.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. The Ridgemont Pump Station Replacement Project is nearing completion, and it was decided to relocate the electrical rack from the southeast corner of the site to the southwest corner of the site due to space constraints for future pump station cleaning and operation. And we negotiated a change order with the contractor for $1,093.43, and we're asking your approval for that change order.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. First reading ordinance 2021-12. An ordinance to amend the 2020-2021 fiscal year general fund budget. This will take $105,000 out of our general fund reserves. This was discussed at the planning retreat and at the budget workshops, that there would be opportunities to purchase some vehicles, specifically a truck for a codes inspector, a vehicle for the city planner, and a maintenance van for the Parks and Recreation Department in this current fiscal year. Staff has been working on locating those vehicles, and they will be presented for purchase at the June meeting, which is the second reading of this ordinance. Is there any questions? Seeing none, moving on to first reading ordinance 2021-13, an ordinance of the City of Laverne, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. We've had a planning retreat and multiple budget workshops on this. You should all have in front of you a capital items and additional operating list. It was asked at the very last workshop that each board member put together their priority list and submit that to better determine where we're going to go with this budget. For myself, I'll just go ahead and speak and say that I would be in favor. These items aren't wish list items. It's more needs than just wants. So for me, I would like to include all of the capital request items in the budget. Phyllis is already located where we had gotten a grant from the state last year, about $350,000 in additional revenue that wasn't counted in the original packets. So I would, of the roughly $5 million that we're going to be putting into the reserve funds from this year's budget, I would suggest that we pull $742,234, not just for the regular budget needs and these capital items. I also want to include in there, we've already discussed the 3% raises for our employees, but I want to add another 3% onto that. This year has been very, very difficult, very stressful for everyone, staff included, and they've had to work in a constantly changing environment of different rules, regulations, adjusting with COVID, working from home, working from the office, with masks, without masks. It's constantly changing. So we've had an exceptional year as far as revenue. So my thought is we definitely need to show our appreciation and take care of our employees who have been doing a wonderful job taking care of us this year.
With that, I would concur with the mayor, and I think we need to move forward with this and support the staff that helps runs this city.
Absolutely, I agree with you as well.
Oh, I totally agree. I just wish that this is one part of this job that I don't care much about, is have to go through there and pull that stuff out, but wish I'd have known this before.
Well, this would make it so we're not pulling stuff
Well,
out.
I know, but it was the headache and stress of trying to figure out a way to do this and try to make people happy. So I'm glad that Phyllis did what she does best and found some money. That's good.
Any other questions, comments about the budget? Okay, moving on to number 15, Resolution 2021-14. A resolution to write off uncollectible property tax accounts. And this resolution should be in your packets. It is totaling $36,417. Is there any questions? Okay, moving on to number 16. Motion to approve settlement offer in the city versus Yarborough condemnation lawsuit. This is a condemnation case that was filed in 2017. It's in regards to the city obtaining a easement by court order, which we obtained in July of 17. And the issue of compensation to the landowner and the tenant has been going back and forth for a while. As compensation for the landowner and tenant, the city deposited $8,233 with the clerk court. The landowner has offered to settle for an additional $12,300. The tenant, McDonald's, has disclaimed any interest in the condemnation process, so if we do this, this will fully settle the civil action. So, and I believe it's the recommendation of our city attorney that we do this. Is that correct, Mr. Cope?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Is there any questions about this? I know this is a long one, I believe going back to the Waldron Road widening. So it's been going on for a while. Good to see that taken care of. So moving on to number 17, motion to appoint a new judge. We have a motion here to appoint a new city judge. I know I've been in discussions with our city attorney, looking at recommendations, and have spoken with Mr. Frederick Cartwright, who is here. If anyone would like to talk to him and find out his background. Sir, I'd like to invite you up, and you can introduce yourself to the board.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman. Great opportunity. I appreciate being here. Appreciate the invitation. My name is Will Cartwright, private attorney, office in Murfreesboro. little bit about me, I guess. I've got married, been with my wife since high school, actually, and we have 3 children from 5, 13, and 15. I do love the practice of law, building my own law practice, and this is a great opportunity. It's a great responsibility, and I appreciate the consideration. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Now, you do have some Laverne roots, is that right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You do have some Laverne roots.
Oh, yes, yeah. My prior career actually worked as an executive level position for Hanson Atkins. It's like the car haul company that you see up and down Laverne all the time. So nearly 20 years with them, working just right off of Dick Buchanan Street. Yep. So been coming to Laverne quite often.
Does anyone have any questions for him?
What'd you do with Henson?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What'd you do with the truck hauling company?
So when I left there, I was the position that I held was a regional manager. So I was over the southeast of the United States, roughly 400 employees, different locations.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Cartwright.
appreciate it.
Item number 18, appoint or remove board and committee members. First, we have the Greenway Advisory Committee. We have one council position that is vacant that we will need to fill. We have the Historical Preservation Advisory Committee. We have the council member position, which is vacant. And then we have 2 terms vacant with the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. The terms of Elizabeth Dandler and Jennifer Webb have recently become vacant. We will begin advertising these positions on Channel 3 and on Facebook. We do not currently have any applications at this time. So if you're watching this on YouTube or at home on TV and you're interested, feel free to put in an application for that. Moving on to number 19, we have discussion for the bond issue, which we've been discussing for a major road project and other city needs. So we've all received some information at our planning retreat, our budget workshops on bonding out this money. You should have it all in front of you as well in your packet. Let's open it up for discussion and kind of set the direction of what we want to do so that our city administrator can start working on the appropriate resolutions and working with our financial partners as to how we want to go about this.
So we're 100% settled in on the 35 million?
Well, that's what we have numbers for, but that's what we're here to discuss.
I think after listening to Phyllis and Kyle and Bruce, I think that's a workable number.
Well, I think some of the main needs that we've discussed, which is we've talked about both the needs for new homes for Fire Station 41, for additional space for the police department who have turned closets into offices, along with needing to take steps to keep the city moving forward. I think 35 million is if we're going to start addressing all of that, that's where we need to be.
Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to see that the board is working together, looking at the listing here to somewhat, as far as a group of 5 people come together and see the important pieces that need to be done, including the South Walden Road design, right-of-way and construction, along with the fire and police. It's good to see everyone sort of working together and pulling together this city to make it work. Obviously, we understand there's a large amount of money, but we had the budget to do it, and I think in this day and age, this is the time that we need to move the city forward and get things done and accomplished.
Well, it's a democracy, and from looking at this, it looks like South Walden Road takes precedence
Absolutely.
as far as that part of it. So that would be, I guess, number one.
Alderwoman Honeycutt or Alderman Waldron, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's no doubt that Old National Highway and South Walden Road needs to be widened. We discussed it. It's gonna take about 10 years. I think somebody mentioned it's gonna be 4 years before it really gets started, and it's gonna be a challenge with all the development coming in. You can just imagine within 10 years how many homes can be built in 10 years. And I know when I left 2 years ago, I was talking to get the right-of-ways on Old National Highway and Walden Road, and I was pretty surprised that when I come back that we hadn't went as far as we have on it. But you know, it's time to do it. You know, it's time to do it. We're way behind the 8 ball, because the development is not going to stop. And the traffic, if you traveled Old National Highway at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you know, it's a mess now, and we kind of still in the Cobra deal. If we was in full string, it would be gridlock, and then same as Walden Road, and even Mushborough Road now used to, only in the evenings you had traffic coming out of Nashville. Now you got it going both ways. So, you know, traffic is a major concern in Laverne.
I have to say that I agree with Vice Mayor No. It's nice to see that everybody came together and sort of has the same outlook for the city. I agree that as we continue to grow, that roads are obviously a big thing that needs to be improved, and, you know, our fire and police department, those guys keep us safe in everything that we're doing and keep the citizens safe. So I think that we're headed in the right direction. And again, it's amazing to see how much we've all come together with the same thoughts.
And I'm glad to see us discussing infrastructure, because to my memory, since Waldron Road was widened on this side of town, I can't remember a major infrastructure plan that got underway myself. So I'm glad to see that, because we've Vice Mayor No and I are very fond of our can here. We're not kicking it anymore, letting anyone else kick it. So it's time to get stuff done. So it sounds like everyone's in agreement with the South Waldron Road design, the right-of-way, and the construction, which I know we started that study just in 2019 and got it back. And it shows us, as far as the different options, whether 5 lanes, 3 lanes, shows us a lot of options. Right. I will make one statement, which is I do believe we need to start on the design for Old Nashville Highway. There could possibly be some federal dollars in that. We know that there is quite a bit of discussion at the federal level with an infrastructure package, and it would be nice if we can work with our representatives like we have before. We've had a great relationship with Representative Desjardins, Senator Haggerty's office, and so utilize those as well as our connections with Governor Lee to hopefully get this project on the radar as well.
Absolutely.
And then I don't think anyone can disagree with all the needs for police and fire.
From looking at this, it looks pretty cut and dry to how we feel South Waldron Road, Fire Station 41, and then the Old Nashville Highway design. What did you, Kyle, or you, Phyllis, I left that paper at home. Did y'all give us a price on what that design cost?
That was in the big, long capital list.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I left it at home. I couldn't remember. I didn't know if you knew it off the top of your head or not. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well,
Nashville Highway, the design cost probably about 1.5 million, give or take.
How much, Adam?
1.5 million, give or take.
That sounds, maybe it was you that said that, I don't remember.
I want to say that both designs were that price, and so the right-of-way quite a bit more, but
But from looking at this, it looks like South Walden Road, Fire Station 41, and the old Nashville Highway design is 1, 2, 3, and then even though I know that's a lot of money, 1.5 million, but compared to these others.
I think you have to include the police operating building too, Steve. I think you're not mentioning that, but the police
Yeah.
operating building.
No, I mean, I'm just talking about as far as sequence, the way we looked at it here. But wasn't there something about the police station that the money was, most of that money was there, or was that Public Works?
that's Public Works.
That's Public Works, okay, my bad.
Now, we've had discussion on priority projects, but the other part of this conversation is, are we looking at a general obligation bond or the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, which everyone was given information on, and we really didn't discuss it at the budget workshop. That way everyone had time to take it and read. So since everyone's had some time to read it, some thoughts, and I think our city administrator wants to chime in because I saw that mask come off pretty quick.
In your packet, there is a page that shows the cost of the bond issue. If you look over on the right-hand side, there's one column that is titled P&I, which would be principal and interest for bond. And then there's P&I for Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, the TMBF, with a 3-year draw, and another column with a 5-year draw. If you look down through there, those are the annual costs just for this $35 million bond issue. And as you can see down at the bottom are totals for those 3 different options. The regular bond looks like it would cost us approximately $44 million over 20 years. The 3-year draw with the municipal bond fund is a little over, it's almost 47 million. And then the 5-year draw is 48, almost $48.5 million. So if you look at those 3 options, it appears that the normal bond issue that we would go through would be the lower cost option to do this. Now, obviously, it all depends on interest rates and how soon we get this done. Obviously, the interest rates are still pretty low, and we don't know when they're going to go up. But then I just wanted to point out the different costs there for the 3 different options for bonding this money out.
And thankfully, I did see that the Fed chair just, I believe yesterday or the day before, said that they plan on keeping those rates where they're at right now. Just some concerns over inflation, which can impact us for materials, building, whatnot, so.
Correct.
But
Is all 3 of them like frozen interest, whatever you get it at, it's for the life of it?
For the regular bond issue, yes, it should be. For the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, after 10 years, they have the option to come back and quote us another interest rate for the remaining 10 years. So, depending on what the interest rates are at that time, it could be a higher interest rate than what it is now. There's just no way to know at this point. So, it could change after 10 years for the municipal bond fund options.
My comment B is obviously looking at the dollar numbers, the 44,416 versus 46,9 and 48,4. I mean, obviously the PI is the most cost-effective way to go, and it's fixed, so we know our numbers and we can deal with it.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't go that way? Is there something I'm missing?
We wanted to look at different options because we have always just looked at bonds in the past, and I know Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund is used by a lot of cities across the state, but it doesn't appear that it would benefit us with this size of a bond issue. Now, If we went with a lower amount, I don't know if the rates would be any better, but for what we're looking at, you know, the numbers tell the story, so.
It was mentioned, I don't know who brought it up, about the bonds, like Walden Road and Old National Highway, it'd be about 4 years before it really gets anything off the ground. And somebody, I don't know who mentioned it, about getting the bond now and have to pay interest on it till 4 years. I don't know who brought, what's the bond, about 2.5 interest on it?
I don't know the exact interest rate.
But he was pretty close to that one.
It probably around 2 is my guess, a little over 2.
If we get the money now and we put it in the bank, we'll get some interest in the bank. It probably ain't much.
The way I understand this is in 2 separate draws. You have an initial draw of $17.5 million for the first 3 years of projects, and then you would do the second draw of $17.5 million. So you wouldn't be paying interest or principal on the second, obviously, until you're.
Yeah, I knew it was something discussed about that in the
Right.
in the workshops.
So it is a split bond issue. It's not.
But
you'd be paying
I was
all
just
of it.
curious, you know, if we pay like only, we get to 17 point something million, and just say if the interest we're paying is 2.5%. If we put it in the bank, I mean, it's gonna draw something. I mean,
We might get a little bit, and of course, that's why we have to spend it within a certain amount of time, because we can get penalized if we don't spend bond funds within a certain amount of time, because, you know, we're not supposed to make money off of loaned money.
right. I wasn't sure about that, but I was just saying, you know, that was one, question I had about that.
And additionally, we don't have to wait 4 years. There's going to be, as far as starting off a design portion, which will cost money. I'm sure I've heard Chief Beasley talking about the possibility of a fire station 1 with an admin connected at one point. And depending on how quickly Chief Davis can get designs, that project could happen where instead of waiting 4 years to start road construction, we're starting other pieces of this as well. And it may not even be 4 years. It's depending on how quickly, of course, you've got the design and then the right-of-way. And it could be that, hey, we have the right-of-way for one section of it. You start that while you're working on the rest of it. It's not something where we just have to sit on the money and sit on all the projects while waiting for every little piece to be in place. Because Waldron Road is a very long, winding road from 24 to Rock Springs Road.
Just thinking about the widening from Murfreesboro Road to the interstate, we started it, I think, in 2000, we started talking about it in 2005, and we just, 2015, I think, we just, well, this Yarborough lawsuit, that was part of it, so, you know, it was a long, drawn-out deal, you know.
The Yarborough lawsuit was due to a sewer line at the back of the property.
Yeah.
That's not related to Walden.
But it kinda was part of the Walden Road widening
No, sir,
in one
it's
way.
not. It's not.
Okay.
And we have enough projects in the first 3 to 4 years. I think we could probably spend the vast majority of that 17 million just between police and fire and design and that sort of thing. So we have an estimated draw. And as far as the Waldron Road project, that had federal funds involved, so the processes involved were much more extensive than if we were to pay for it ourselves. So the Waldron Road project, you know, while it will take some time, I don't think it's going to be a 10-year project. Now, I could be wrong, but there's really no way to know right now exactly how long it'll take.
So at this point, I would recommend, it sounds like the board is wanting to go with the P&I bond. And for direction for Bruce, I would say that for one of the 2 resolutions, that's what we're working on. And then the other one, if we can have that brought back in June, that would go ahead and essentially for these projects related to the bond, would authorize the city to be reimbursed once we have the bond for any money that we're spending if we start the design or for whatever portions of it we start.
Right. Phyllis and I will get with our consultant and work out what we need to do to get this process started, and we should be able to bring some of this to you at the June meeting to start this process.
Now, Phyllis, I know during the budget retreat you was nervous. Are you okay now? It's gotta be done. And just so I asked this question, I wanna make sure I understand it. We get money and we start these projects, and I think, Michael Dietz is the one that told me that there could possibly be some grant money come in after we get started, like on certain things, then that money would just stay in the bond money. Is that
Correct.
is that right? Is that what you told me?
I'm thinking possibly Bruce.
I think it may have been
Kyle?
Adam. I think it may have been
Was it
Adam.
Adam? Well, they all look the same after a while. But is that a fair statement? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is. If we were able to get some grant funds for any of these projects, that would free up some of this bond money for other uses.
And that is still possible that we could get some grant money.
Yes, sir. It's always a possibility, especially with this infrastructure plan that could be coming down the road. We don't know what that's going to entail at this point.
Now, we come in here Tuesday night, we're gonna vote on how we're gonna vote, how we do this vote-wise.
This won't be for a vote at this meeting. So this was a discussion item. And so what we will be voting on is primarily the budget. That's the big item on here, as well as a budget amendment and some items to purchase. But this will come back. We will have the first resolution in June. That one will authorize us that for any spending that we go ahead and do related to these projects, before we have the bond, that we can get reimbursed. The city can be reimbursed through that bond.
I'm a
Then-
little antsy, I'm sorry.
Then once we have everything with the bond, then we can come back and there will be a second resolution for us to approve. That one probably will wait till after the budget is passed, at the very least.
All right.
Phyllis, are you okay? I see you breathing heavy with us talking about spending a lot of money, so.
I think there's another resolution, and Bruce may, if that's fine, but, one of the resolutions we'll have to bring for the board is for, an agreement.
Could you come up to the mic so that everyone at home could hear you as well? Thank you.
I believe one of the resolutions we'll have to bring before the board, probably along with the reimbursement one, is the resolution authorizing the board to authorize our bond agency, whether it be Stevens Group or whoever we decide to go with, give them the authority to bid out the bond and have a live bid auction thing that they do here.
Right.
So it's basically probably two resolutions.
It could be. It's been a while since we've done a
Yeah.
bond issue, so we'll have to get with our consultant to get everything in order. We'll bring those back as we need to this board for
They're
approval.
and one reason we like using Stevens Group is they work very, very closely with the comptroller's office, and everything goes to the they will walk the documents
Yep.
over to the comptroller's office because we have to have approval from them. So this resolution gives them the authority to do the negotiations for us, and they fill out all of the federal forms that are required, so I'm not sure if the other agency does all that, but I know that Stevens does.
So with
Take
that
care of
kind of money that we're asking for, they start the bidding wars, there's a chance that the interest rate could even be lower than what
True.
we're talking about this evening?
True.
Correct. The last bond issue that I sat in on, it was pretty neat to watch because they had it up on the screen and you could see it when the bids came in, and goodness, we got like 20 bids that time, and they were all competing for the same money, and it was just kind of neat to see how those interest rates were for that bond issue.
And Phyllis, additionally, we spoke at the budget workshops about the possibility of being able to refinance some of our existing bonds.
Yes. Bruce has gotten some numbers together on those.
On the last page of your packet,
One of I believe it's the general obligation, there's not much opportunity, there's a little bit of opportunity, but there's more opportunity in the water sewer fund than
there is in the general obligation.
Man, I'm just excited to get things rocking for the city.
Well, trust me, with those amounts, I mean, that gets more stuff done in this city, though. It may not be a huge road project, but it's, you know, another police vehicle. You know, there's lots of opportunities with that. And anytime we have the opportunity to save taxpayers' money, that's absolutely what we want to do. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Mr. Mayor, before we do with that, I want to bring up something. I talked with Evan about this. I've had some questions, I've had some comments and concerns about the amount of building in Laverne, and I'm hoping that people at home will listen to what Evan is fixing to talk about. People are wanting, they want the building to stop. No more building. Why can't we have a moratorium? I spoke with Evan, and Evan has graciously agreed to talk a little bit about that on camera, why that is not a good thing. So Evan, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, sir. No, I'm glad to do it, Alderman No. And as Alderman No stated,
Vice Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor, that's right. I'm still getting used to that. So, as the Vice Mayor noted, there has been some questions and comments about what's involved with the moratorium and that sort of thing. There's a lot that we could say about it. I think the important thing to think through is when it comes to moratoriums, the city is inviting basically lawsuits from anyone that has a project ongoing or in the pipeline, because there's a concept called inverse condemnation. We know what condemnation is generally when the city takes somebody's property and they pay for it and they don't have any choice, but the city takes it and pays for it. Inverse condemnation is where the city takes property interests without paying for it, okay? And so the sort of lawsuits you would be inviting would be inverse condemnation cases, saying if the city were to pass a moratorium and says I can't use my land for what I've been using it for to develop, then the city has taken a property right away from that person, and then the city would not only potentially be liable for whatever lost profit, lost money, but in addition to their attorney's fees. So moratoriums, there are very limited circumstances where they may be appropriate, but just a wholesale citywide moratorium, no more building for some period of time would be a disaster.
And has it been your experience, or at least heard about in your business, that cities that have tried that, in the long scheme of things, it didn't turn out very well for them?
Well, I can say this, I'm not aware of, and this doesn't mean that it hadn't happened, of course, but I've never, in my 20-plus years of doing this, seen a citywide moratorium where all building just stopped for some period of time. And I think because most people would think that would just be a disaster, as I stated. So there's really nothing good that could come out of that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I will say, Mr. Cove, I've been paying attention to one of our neighboring cities that did a limited moratorium, and even before they had that passed, they were already receiving letters that were read into the record from property owners saying, if you move forward with this, we are suing. And that was a very limited one.
Right.
So, okay, with that said, moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
April's about gone, but April is Autism Awareness Month. Everybody aware of that, and everybody keep the Boner family in their prayers. They had a loss, and I know the Boner family is going through a difficult time, and just everybody be safe, and I'll see you back here Tuesday night.
Alderwoman Honeycutt.
I just want to remind everybody of the senior yard sale this weekend. Starts at 9 o'clock Saturday, right, Steve? 9?
I'm sorry, I was just excited when you said senior yard sale.
I've seen you over there, but it starts at 9, correct?
No,
It don't?
starts at 7.
In the morning?
7 to.
Well, excuse me, I thought it started at 9.
You'll be there
so-
at 5:30.
if I see you there at 5:30, I'll be looking forward to it. But no, I just wanted to remind everybody of the senior yard sale this weekend, and I hope everybody comes out.
Thank you. Alderman Coates?
I'd just like to say thank you to the board for working together on some of these projects. I know the staff are here are starting to smile and nod their heads and look pleased to what we're trying to do, and I just appreciate everyone working together on this, and let's get through this and move forward and bring the city together and get ahead of the curve.
We're going to get ahead of that curve, and to bring up what Alderman Honeycutt said, we've got so much stuff for the yard sale Saturday, a lot of great items. If there's any fishing people here, we got a fishing tackle box in today that is cram-packed with about $1,000 worth of fishing stuff. We got tables and chairs and air conditioners. We got all kind of goodies. Tell your friends we're going to have plenty of good food, barbecue and stuff. So tell your friends, you guys come down. I'm sure you'll find something. David and his guys, he left because he knew I was going to talk about him. They came down today. No, he's sitting back there. I thought he was sitting over here. They came down today and pilfered through, so, yeah. But I am also like Mr. Coates is, the city has been kind of stale for a while, and everybody's been working hard and trying to get things through. Unfortunately, as far as I've learned since I've been on board, there's only one way for a city to progress, only one that I know of, and that's through tax dollars. And if we can get things done and get some good tax dollars rolling in, so I think we'll be fine, and it's good to work together. Thank you, sir.
Well, absolutely. It's great to see the board working together to keep moving the city forward. It's something that this city has needed for a long time. I feel like the first 2 years were a lot of planning, a lot of setting the stage so that we can take these next steps forward for everyone. So I'm overjoyed in seeing all of this. I want to thank Phyllis, Bruce, and all of the staff that's worked so hard working with us through all of the budget meetings. Some of them were short, some of them were very long, but we got through all of it, and hopefully we've come together on a plan that addresses all the needs and takes care of our employees. I do have some families I want to ask that you remember in your prayers. The McClure family, who just lost a brother. We've got the Martinez family, the Glasgow family, and as Alderman Waldron mentioned, the Boner family as well. Just please lift them up in your prayers. With that, call this meeting adjourned.